So far in the debate, it has been incredibly heavy on very specific policy. Real differences in foreign policy. Sometimes they go around in circles repeating the same thing and agreeing with one another. But then in other times, Bernie Sanders says, no, ISIS should be our priority, not Bashar al-Assad. We should not go after him first. It's a bit of a bold statement. Earlier, he had a bold statement when they said, 77% of Americans don't think we could stop lone wolf attacks. He's like, yeah, I'm one of them. I mean, that was for a presidential candidate to say we might not be able to stop lone wolf terrorist attacks. I mean, you'd automatically lose on the Republican side.
Right.
But that's Bernie Sanders. He's real.
He is real. I actually love his answer about how we need to go after ISIS before we go after Assad. Isn't Assad helping us go after ISIS? Or not necessarily helping us, but he's not a fan of ISIS either.
Well, that's a really interesting point that no one has made on the Democratic or Republican side, what Anna just said. If you're completely playing realpolitik, Assad is most definitely attacking ISIS. We hate ISIS. ISIS is attacking us. So there is some validity to the Bernie Sanders strategy of, well, if the Russians, the Syrian government, as much as we dislike them, us, the French, the British, etc., are all attacking ISIS, maybe we finish them, and then we get back to fighting amongst each other. For example, when we all went after the Nazis, the Soviets and US and UK, and then after the Nazi threat was over, then we settled down to a nice Cold War against one another. Right? So, and Martin O'Malley's backing that point up. It's not an easy question, but Sanders is mainly saying, go after your number one threat, and then secondly, be wary of vacuums. So you clean out Assad from Syria, then what happens next? Mm-hmm. We cleared out Gaddafi, and then we had a mess in Libya. We cleared out Saddam Hussein, and we started a horrible mess in Iraq. But then Clinton used that and went in the opposite direction. She said, I am against vacuums. Vacuum prices dropped all over the country. Anyway, no, and her interpretation of that is the U.S. has to take proactive measures. If we don't act, there'll be a vacuum in the world. I don't necessarily agree with that.
What does that mean?
Well,
go ahead. I don't know if I understand that point.
Basically means when people say world opinion says, or the free nations of the world, it's usually whatever that American politician wants. Mm-hmm. Because if the people really felt something, well, then I don't see a lot of Muslim countries going, we're invading Syria tomorrow. Let's call the Americans and see if they can help our Air Force. Instead, what will happen is with all these things is we get kind of bribe and push some kind of Muslims in there and drop bombs. It's not rational.
Yeah. So I think what she's getting at is, to Wes's point, we make the decisions, and if we're not making decisions, there's a vacuum, which is not really true. There are other countries, they also have opinions. It doesn't mean there's a vacuum.
Well,
if we're not forcing our opinion on everybody.
But there is a case, while she was Secretary of State, that a vacuum existed. And here's, well, it's not written about in any magazine or anything, but I got a very good friend who's the foreign area officer for a Muslim country in the Middle East where there's war. And he basically told me, he said, the reason it's so messed up is really since around the time of the Arab Spring, we've had a very hands-off approach. And that most of the policies have been basically implemented by the Israelis and the Saudis. And we just kind of go along with those policies to a large extent, which is why the funding went to ISIS and everything else to build up the Sunni insurgencies.
Yeah, but I don't think that's what Hillary Clinton is referring to, because lately, meaning the last 10, 20, 40 years, the U.S. policy is, hey, Israel, what do you think? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, although in this case there is difference of opinion, I don't think that Israel would agree that we should go after ISIS before Assad. I think they hate Assad and his help of Hezbollah more so. So Bernie Sanders disagrees with Israel more than Hillary Clinton does. So it depends on how you look at foreign policy and that so-called vacuum.
No, you're right. You're right. The Israelis definitely want Assad out before anything else. No question.